healthcare products to market worldwide. With tens of thousands of distributors throughout North and South America, Europe and Asia, and revenue exceeding $100 million annually, Marathon Group International is one of the largest companies of its kind in the world. In leading this highly successful distributorship to lead Unicity International as CEO, Mr. Hughes has made the strongest possible statement about his commitment to the future of Unicity and the opportunity for independent distributors worldwide. Mr. Hughes will be sharing his secrets for his success with us today. And just on a personal note, I had the privilege of meeting Stewart in Utah in September. I was so very impressed not only with his brilliance and his articulate communication skills, but more so, I was so blown away by his integrity and the moral fiber that makes him such an outstanding leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and stand and welcome Mr. Stewart Hughes to Canada!
I know who I am, and I'm not worth that. So, thank you very much. So it makes me feel good. It warms my heart. I mean, Toronto's cold. But you're not cold. You're hot. And, we flew in last night, Clayton Barton and I, and got off the plane and walked into the airport, and Clayton turned to me and he says, you know, this is a beautiful airport. And I said, you know, it is a beautiful airport. It's been a long time since I've been to Toronto. That is a beautiful facility you built there. And we got outside of the airport and we thought, this is really cold. You know, you live in Utah, you think you understand cold. Then you go to Minnesota, and then you understand cold. Come to Toronto, you understand cold, but it's amazing. It's amazing to me what people can do to create beauty, to create environment that is warm and hospitable and powerful and just inspiring in the midst of an environment that can be harsh. Can you imagine what it must have been like to settle this land? You know, 200 years ago or whenever it was done, those people were amazing. Can you imagine how strong they had to be to do what they did to create the environment that we now enjoy? It inspires me. When I see things that are just incredible, and I think back on what must have been done and the sacrifices that had to be made to create what we now enjoy, it just warms my heart and inspires me to think that there are people like that in our past who did the things that they did that we now stand on in terms of the joys and the privileges that we have. And we have a certain obligation to carry forward because there's problems yet unsolved, there's questions unanswered, there's great deeds not yet done. And someday, our posterity will look back and say, those guys, they were amazing. At least that's what I hope they say. Before I get into my comments, I want to introduce you to someone. We don't have him on the schedule, but I don't have enough things that I want to say to you to take up all the time I've been given. So I want to introduce Mr. Clayton Barton. Clayton is come on up, Clayton. Clayton is president of the Americas Europe and India. A few months back, we sort of redesigned the structure of the company to facilitate the growth that we were going through, and we divided the company in half. We have an Asia Pacific division, which incorporates everything from Japan and Korea all the way down to Indonesia. We have an Americas, Europe, and India division. And Mr. Christopher Kim, who's based in Bangkok, Thailand, is president of the Asia Pacific division. And Mr. Clayton Barton, who's based in Utah, is president of the Americas, Europe, and India division. So he's the man who's, if you got a problem, don't call me. Call Clayton. And let me tell you a little bit about Clayton. Clayton and I have known each other since we were 12 years old. Wow. We're the same age. He's actually a little older. You can see that. Okay. And, but it's only about 3 months older. We have, you know, we've never really been close. We weren't close as children because he was good and I was bad. He was one of those guys that just did things right in school, and he went to school, which I struggled with. His father was the assistant principal at the school where we went to high school. And when the day came to be notified whether or not you were graduating from high school, of course it was obvious that Clayton would graduate, not so obvious for me. And in fact, I was notified that I wouldn't be graduating because I hadn't completed the requirements for graduating from high school, which is, I'm embarrassed to tell you that now, but you should know the past because someone will eventually tell you. All right? So, the reality for me is I was panicked. Not that I was not graduating from high school, but that my parents thought I was. And they would be at the event, and apparently I wouldn't be. So I went to Mr. Barton. That's not this Mr. Barton, that's Mr. Barton's dad, Mr. Barton. And pled with him for some mercy. Smart man, very capable man, kind man. He said, listen, we'll let you walk across the stage, we'll even give you one of those little booklets, but there won't be anything in it. I said, that's good enough. I don't need that thing. I just need the visibility. He says, but if I do this for you, you've got to come back over the summer and complete the requirements for high school. I made a deal with him. I kept the deal. Clayton, just a contrast between us, not just, you've seen that contrast, but you know, this guy owned rental property in high school. I was renting. Not his property, couldn't afford that, but I was renting some property. As the years went by, we had interactions over and over again. His career went one way, my career went another way, and we had, you know, a lot of times where years would go by where we wouldn't get a chance to even talk to each other, and then other times we'd work very closely together. And about, what was it, about 10 years ago or so that you called me up, you said, listen, he's always been a real estate guy, he's always been able to make money in real estate, and I was able to make money, but not in real estate. I couldn't make money on my own homes that I bought. So the interesting thing, he calls me up and he says, Stewart, listen, I think there's an opportunity for us to really seize a major upswing in some real estate in California. And I said, okay. He says, I'm going to need, you know, you put up some serious money. And I said, okay. Now, I mean, I just totally trusted him. And we never had an agreement. We did millions of dollars in business. We never had a piece of paper between us. Not once, not ever. And he took money, he bought property, he sold property. I never even saw, I think I saw property one time. I went out to California one time and looked at the property for a couple of hours. It was a little scary to me, and we didn't have any meth labs, did we? But the reality to me is that I made a huge amount of money from his efforts, and I've always been grateful for the financial reward. That's fun, but the really big reward is the fact that I knew I had a friend that I could trust completely and totally. And so I was very anxious for him to be a part of what I was doing in our business. That was when I was a distributor. I was constantly trying to recruit him. And you know, he was very happy in his career. He was a top player in his industry, which was based in Canada, wasn't it, at one point? Yeah, Montreal. So the interesting thing about it, he would never say yes to me. One day he called me because and I'll let him tell that story when he wants to, but he called me and I gave him some suggestions about how he could use our products to change his world. And he went from being a very, very sick man to summiting Rainier and the magnificent physical specimen you've seen for yourself today. So I want Clayton to say a few words to you now, and then I'll come up afterwards and we'll do my thing and get a chance to talk to you. Here you go, Clayton.
I will tell you right now, you know, it's hard to precede Stewart on the stage, but I'm not only preceding him, I'm following him. I don't know how that works out. Thank you, Stewart. Stewart is kind in a couple of ways. Number one, I was not as good as he thinks in high school. Number two, I learned in high school, and I won't tell you the story, because I promised Stewart I won't tell the story until he says it's okay. But I learned that I could trust Stewart Hughes in an amazing way. He has stopped bullets for me, not real bullets, but the type of bullets that would have put me in huge trouble with the assistant principal. At a young age when there was nothing worse than facing the assistant principal and my dad. 7 years and 30 pounds ago, I woke up unable to move my left leg. My wife is an RN, much smarter than me. I jabbed her with my elbow. Honey, I've had a stroke. I'm paralyzed. Well, she's worked in emergency for a while, and she asked me a few questions. What's my name? Recite the alphabet. Can I move my other leg? Yes. She says, it's not a stroke, it's sciatica. And she rolled over and went back to sleep. Well, in my mind, I had a stroke. I went to my doctor. My doctor weighed me, looked at me, poked me, drew my blood, did the EKG. My doctor is a kind man, gentle in his speech, and he said this: if I were a veterinarian, and you were a horse, I would put you down. So he gave me a bag full of samples. This doctor, besides going back with our family for many years, I'll tell you what, this man is prescription happy. He wrote me prescriptions for 2 or 3 things, told me what to eat, what not to eat, start exercising. One of the drugs he prescribed worried me. I had it with me, had not taken it. And in the Seattle airport, I called Stewart. I said, Stewart, you know that drug you've been telling me about? You know the product you've been recommending? Well, I was just prescribed the drug. And Stewart can do this with me. But he said, don't take it. He probably wouldn't tell it to very many people because we're not doctors. But to me, he has that position in my life. He said, don't take it. I said, I don't want to. So I started taking what was then called Bioslife 2. I walked occasionally during those days with a cane. When you're 70 walking with a cane, it means you're dignified, accomplished, you've been around the paces. When you're my age, back then, walking with a cane, it means you are broken. I started taking this product, and I took it religiously. I did not eat without taking this product. I didn't know much about it. Stewart didn't tell me much. He said, just take it. Send it to me.